Bobby Hebert, Saints turn Tommy DeVito's Giants back to a pumpkin. Who is doing the titles for WWL? Wow, a lot of puns in there. WWL Sports, Bobby Hebert after the Saints dominate the Giants. Big win for the Saints, huge win. We've covered it. We will continue to cover it all week. This is the most promising game the Saints have really had, and certainly in the last 5-6 weeks. I mean, is it better than some of the stuff we saw early in the season, like the Patriots game? I don't know about that, but complete game. 4 quarters, every facet of the game, offensive, defensive, special teams, the whole thing. This was about as good of a performance as you could possibly get. A lot of positives to take away from this, and definitely the right time to be doing this. Doing this right before the last 3 games of the season and potentially before the playoffs if all things go well.
I've never been sacked 7 times in my life. But,
not in a game, right?
Yeah, but you hold on to the ball, and then he wasn't really holding on. I think we're outstanding. Finally,
a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. DeVito was holding on to the ball a bit, but it certainly wasn't like Bryce Young. We were beating the offensive line. We were beating them with stunts, and we were showing them different looks and confusing them. And these were earned sacks. These weren't just like covered sacks where DeVito is standing back there holding the ball, and we finally get to him. We were blowing him up. We were absolutely pushing their line backwards. So these were earned sacks. These, different types of sacks happen during a game. These were the ones you want to see, for sure.
We had a game in the season Superdome that we could be proud of. We're not on the road. Probably the other most convincing win, but I think the Giants are better than the Patriots. We shut out. Anytime you shut out an NFL.
Honestly, I mentioned the Patriots game earlier. I think this might have been a better win because of just how it transpired and how we looked. The Patriots game, the Patriots kind of lost that game and handed us a lot of opportunities and our starting field position and things like that. This felt like much more of a identity-defining win. The Patriots game, there wasn't a lot we could take from that. There wasn't. It was a huge win. The score was lopsided, but it wasn't one of those performances you see and you're like, oh yeah, we can replicate this week in and week out. It was just kind of a circumstantial situation. This felt like more of a win where the Saints can do this every week. This felt like closer to who the Saints are, offensively and defensively. There were maybe is a few things there, like getting Taysom more involved. Obviously, the Saints aren't going to replicate him having one carry, one reception or whatever it was, but and then Olave and some other injuries. But as far as what we're trying to do, this is way closer to do this next week, do this against the Bucks, do this against the Falcons, versus whatever we saw against the Patriots. So you could certainly sit back and say this is probably the best win, the best 4 quarters the Saints have had all season long.
Felt team like we did in New England. That's impressive. That was a dominant performance. I thought we had explosive chunk plays against the Colts. Yeah. You know how we won that game. But
the Colts, great example too, where the Colts, we probably had our best offensive game, but defensively we weren't very good, especially at the beginning. So you can't even say that because you can't replicate what we did against the Colts every week because you can't give a team the opportunities we gave the Colts in the first half of that game and then expect to win. And then you can't replicate Rashid having 3 catches for 150 yards and 3 touchdowns. So those are differences. I always say this, and a lot of people in the comments have started to understand this the more the season's gone and the more we say it, but not all wins are the same, not all losses are the same. And this is a good example of that. You can take the Patriots game, you can take the Colts game, you take the Panthers game, you take this game. Those are 4 wins, all 4 very different.
As far as what we did today, I think the magic word is outstanding. I think I wrote outstanding. Yes. I gotta go. Charlie, what's that? Thesaurus or something? I have to look. What's a different word for outstanding?
Spectacular.
Spectacular. Fantastic.
Fantastic.
No, we were truly outstanding.
Another synonyms for spectacular. This channel. Synonyms for fantastic. Me. Let's see. What's another synonym for fantastic? This YouTube community that we've built right here. Those are all synonyms for the word
and
that
a number
Bobby
of
is trying to use there.
Areas, and you got to give Dennis Allen, the team, props. They came ready to play because you're fighting for your life right now. You can't afford to have an off game. Now we've won 2 in a row. Now we're gonna have a short week. Can we win 3 in a row? That's gonna be interesting going forward.
Yeah, super tough game coming up on the road against the Rams. Rams are playing good football right now. They're kind of getting back to what they do. They're kind of finding their identity. They may have found theirs a little too late, but Stafford's playing really good ball right now. Kyron Williams is looking like a stud. Cooper Kupp finally, seemingly back to healthy. And then Puka Nacua has been a revelation this year. So really tough game there. This would have been a result whenever Bobby recorded this, so I don't know if he'll talk about it, but the Panthers beat the Falcons, which does change what the Saints have to do a little bit. So when the Falcons were involved in the triple threat match for the NFC South, we had to win out, basically. I mean, we've said that for weeks. We had to win 5 straight games. Now that they've lost, it's much more of us versus Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay has the Jaguars at home in Tampa this weekend. We have the Rams on a short rest. Neither one of us are supposed to win that game. So if that's the case, if we both lose those games, if upsets don't happen, they certainly can, but it'd be disingenuous if I was going to sit here and say that we're definitely going to beat the Rams. If that's the case, then it's a loser leaves town match in Tampa Bay. That is for the division title. That is for the NFC South. That's for everything. So we had this kind of 5-game window that we had to win, and now it's consolidated down to 1 game in Tampa. Now, if we go and beat Tampa in Tampa Bay, we have to take care of business against the Falcons. We can't slip up there. But our focus now, the goal, is much more clear. Much more clear that it's probably going to be, can the Saints win 9 games, beat the Bucs on the road, and take care of business and lock it up against the Falcons? Then you win the division. So, because of the Falcons, it's becoming much more linear as far as like what we have to do in the next couple weeks.
I mean, let me tell you, the Giants had the 4th best third down defense in the NFL. We converted 50%. They were the 4th best third down defense. They were holding opponents to 35%, and we were able to get 50%. Did they even have an offense?
No.
They were.
What's kind of crazy is how the Giants had like 190 or right around 200 yards total offense. And think about how bad they were. And think about how dominant the Saints defense was. And that's what the Saints did against the Panthers. The Saints had a little bit over 200 yards total offense. So last week, when I was saying, look, guys, we can't sit here and have 200 yards in a win and act like we're the Dolphins or something. This is why. Because you see how the Giants played today, and you see how bad their offense was. 200 yards of total offense in a game in the NFL in 2023 doesn't cut it. That ain't it. You can't do that. What the Saints did today, that's what you got to do. That's a winning performance. That's an actual offense. That's a functioning offense in 2023. Getting everyone involved. Who got the most work? Our best player, Alvin Kamara. What have we been saying for weeks? Pete, quit the timeshare. Quit the Jamal. Is Jamal Williams on Pete's fantasy team? We've been wondering what's going on. We saw it today or yesterday. We saw it in the game. We saw exactly what we need to see. Kamara had twice as many carries as Jamal. Kamara led the team in targets and receptions. Perfect. Do that every week. Like I said, Taysom will get more carries as he gets more healthy. Olave coming back, he'll probably end up getting the most targets. Fine. But in a game like this, don't make it hard on yourself. Don't overcomplicate things. Get the ball to your best players. And we did. We got the ball to Alvin Kamara. And then when we had to, we got creative in the red zone. Who got involved? Juwan Johnson, Jimmy Graham. That's the creativity we want to see. This was good. This was a great plan. This was a great scheme. And we executed. 2
of 16 on third down. So, again, that was outstanding. Again, you look red zone, goal to go. What have you done for me lately? We've been outstanding.
Yeah, 9
We've been pretty damn awesome. 9 out of 10, 9 of 10 last red zone drives have come the touchdown route.
Yeah, good.
And I think the one we hit, Juwan Johnson, we were just out of the red zone, so you can't count that. It was like, I think it was 23
yards, exactly.
Yeah, so you can't quite count that, but I don't know. That's basically, to me, a red zone play. I thought, again, we were outstanding in this regard because I thought I'd be shocked considering what Atlanta did You look at last week with Carolina. The Lions had 142 yards rushing. You look at everybody's been able to run the ball. Say, well, the Giants are going to run at least 30 times. But when you're playing catch-up, I guess you can't run. They had 16 rushing attempts for 60 yards, 3.8 average. That was kind of old school.
Yeah, but you also not really, because DeVito had a lot of that. And DeVito had he had a couple long runs, so it kind of skewed the yards per carry. Saquon had like 1.5 yards a carry, 1.8 yards a carry. So when they lined up and they tried to run the football, they couldn't do it. And the Saints, that has been a problem for them. And we knew that the Giants were going to do that. So good. We had something coming in that we had to scheme against. We did. We schemed against DeVito running the ball. Now, granted, he didn't run as many designed runs as I think people expected them to. I'm not sure what Brian Daboll, why he went away with that, because it seemed like that actually was probably their best offensive weapon was the DeVito design run. So I'm not totally sure why they got away from it. But the Saints knew what was coming in. We lined up. We stopped it. And that's all you can ask a team to do.
Saints run defense. Now, as far as sacks, again.
7 sacks.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
We gave up 1 sack, and like Deuce said, it wasn't the O-line. That's why, a tight end might be pass blocking or
yeah, the sack we gave up, I believe, was when Jamal Williams absolutely whiffed on his block. It was just a blitzer. Jamal went to pick him up, completely O-laid it, whiffed it. It happens. But yeah, the offensive line played pretty good. And again, that's one of those things where first couple weeks of the season, we were saying we had the worst offensive line in the league, and they really have turned it around. Or I mean, they're not the Wisconsin Badger offensive line of like 2006, but this is now a functioning offensive line. And especially when you talk about the injuries and people having to play out of position, not bad.
Running back, well, the sack we gave up was because of the running backs. And the pressures even, I thought offensive line was outstanding. Then you go on the flip side, we finally got after the opposing quarterback how you want to see. This is what gets the fans fired up. We had 7 sacks.
Yeah.
7 sacks.
Very good.
And then when you look at that number, I mean, it wasn't just like one player. I mean, you look, DeMario Davis a sack. Passanio, 2.5 sacks. Granderson a sack. Zach Bond got a half a sack with Passanio. Now, how about Brian Brzee? 2 sacks, 2 quarterback hurries, 2 tackles for loss. I thought in a Saints uniform, this was Passanio's best game, most productive game.
Yeah, for sure.
He also was second in tackles behind DeMario Davis, who had 8 unassisted and 10 total. But Brian Brzee, I thought this was his best game in a Saints uniform. He had 3 tackles, 2 sacks, and 2 quarterback hurries and 2 tackles for loss, which is outstanding. If you look at also, keep playing Jimmy Graham. I think right now for the season.
Yeah, I mean, Graham is another thing or another example of, man, why did it take us so long to do this kind of stuff? Like, for so long this season, our offense in the red zone was either run the ball directly up the middle, just bang it into the offensive line, defensive line, or throw these like inefficient fade route kind of things towards the sideline and toward the corners. Now, we're getting everyone involved in the middle of the field. We're getting Juwan Johnson involved. We're getting Jimmy Graham involved in the red zone. We're running the ball more with Kamara, or whether we're throwing these like short kind of screen, kind of short routes to Chris Olave. Like all of a sudden our red zone plays look totally different. We have the roster. We said that before the season. We have a talented roster. We just have to utilize them. And it's sad that it's taken us this long because we probably should already have 9 wins. We probably should already have, maybe even 10 wins. We should already be. This is how we should have played all season long, and Jimmy Graham should have got involved more in the red zone early on. I don't know why that wasn't the case, but it's good to see it happening right now versus not happening at all.
And he has like 7 targets, 6 receptions, and 4 touchdowns.
It's pretty good.
I think that's about right. So
he might lead the team in touchdown catches.
Back end of the season, he should be in the game plan for sure against the Rams.
Yeah.
Or against Tampa Bay or Atlanta, and hopefully he'll be a big part of what we're trying to do in the postseason. Yeah. I thought DeMario Davis, again, who was outstanding.
Unreal.
You look at Double D. I talked about this at halftime. His first quarter domination, he had enough stats that you think that'd be a full game.
Right.
And he did this all in the first.
He was everywhere. Everywhere. I mean, Hebert has been kind of critical of DeMario Davis this year. I don't know why, because he's been as good this year as I've seen him previously. Like Demario Davis, what a consistent player we've got back there. So good.
First quarter, a majority of it, he ended up with 8 unassisted tackles, 10 total, a sack, quarterback hurry, 2 tackles for loss. He was just outstanding on that regard. You know, the one guy they keep picking on, and I think Deuce had mentioned this when I was coming in, to do the show, Isaac Yadam.
Yeah, Yadam.
I don't know if we could pay him or not, but he's earning himself a lot of money. Now, not so much because he's intercepted, but his pass is defended.
Yeah, I think Yadam and Adebo have been good, like in pass defense. I think their one-on-one coverage has been pretty good. We don't have anyone who I would say is a liability back there. Now, granted, we're not exactly covering Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, but for what they've been asked to do, I think our secondary's held up pretty well.
For sure.
He's amongst the leaders. Well, he led the team with 3 passes defended. Paulson and Adebo had a couple. So you look at the players that give an opportunity to play. You know, Marshawn Lattimore not being available. Isaac Yadam, the 6-year guy out of Boston College, has been outstanding. Yeah. Now, if you look at it, Steve, the first half we had 4 sacks. We ended up with 7. Back-to-back games now. We sacked, Bryce 4 times. Now we got 7.
Bryce Young's was more of Bryce Young holding onto the ball or just not knowing what to do in the pocket. These sacks are the kind of sacks you want to see moving forward. These are scheme sacks. These are designed. These were confusing the offensive line. These were proactive sacks. I would say the Bryce Young ones were mostly kind of reactive sacks.
11 sacks in 2 games? Can we get after Matthew Stafford and give that Super Bowl winning quarterback the business?
I'll go ahead and tell you this. Stafford, you're going to have to be proactive because he is not going to hold on to the ball and take sacks. He's too good of a quarterback. He's too good of a veteran. You will not get sacks on Matt Stafford like you got on Bryce Young. There will have to be more of these kind of stunts and confusing looks up front like we gave DeVito.
With the Rams come Thursday night, because this could be here before you know it.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's the case, that we can take care of business and getting after the opposing quarterback. Now, Steve, I thought from the get-go, I thought on defense we would have been at 3-and-out. And I was like, man, then all of a sudden, J.T. Gray running it to the kicker, and that sustained a drive. And they ended up going 9 plays, 37 yards to take a 3-0 lead. But it didn't seem like the Giants were playing like when we're up 7-3. We go 11 plays, 68 yards when Carr hit Kirkwood. Didn't it seem like that they were playing that the game was going to be 9-7 or a field goal type game in that regard?
Well, I think most teams kind of do against us. And that kind of has been the blueprint. The blueprint for these games have been, hey, let's just control it. Let's just kind of muck it up. And then at the end of the game, it'll be 9-6 or it'll be 10-3 and we'll have a chance. That has been kind of the idea. And I think Daboll probably did think, look, if we can just kind of keep this close, if we can just kind of contain the game, then maybe at the end we can have a magical drive or whatever, have a 2-point conversion and try and win this thing. That probably was part of the plan. And then the Saints, put their foot on the gas pedal and extended the lead like you're supposed to do. And before, just like the Panthers, same thing. We dominated the Panthers, but it was an 8-point game with 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. The Panthers were a magical drive away from tying this thing up and maybe squeaking out a win. That's what the Giants were hoping for. The Giants were hoping to keep this thing, right there, 1 score, 1 possession. That's what they wanted to do. And that's why it's so important for our offense to be proactive, because then it doesn't allow the other team to just bottle up the game. It forces them to kind of get involved. It forces them to push. And as these teams push with quarterbacks like Tommy DeVito, Bryce Young, Baker Mayfield, Desmond Ridder, like the guys we're playing against, as they push, they'll make mistakes. And that has to be the blueprint to our success.
Grinding, trying to drive this thing out.
Yes, well, yeah. I was looking at that. I still was encouraged where we were at halftime, considering I think we were more aggressive. You look in the third quarter, we go 10 plays, 68 yards to make it 14-6. And then when Groupie made that 50-yard field goal, you might say, come on, Bobby, we're not even in the fourth quarter, so how can you say that? And we were up 17-6. I said, no, we're going to win this game. But
yeah, I never felt the Giants were threatening. I never thought they could get back in the game. I never thought they could win the game. like I said, this was just different. You can watch a game, you can feel a game, you can see what's going on, and you could just tell like our defense was holding them in check, our offense was moving, we could do things, we could run the ball. I never ever thought we were I would say probably past the second quarter ish, certainly in the second half. I felt real confident that we were just watching a good, solid performance, and there wasn't going to be any kind of crazy comebacks or anything.
But then I started thinking, I better slow my roll, because I remember
I won't say that out loud.
The last time they were in the dome, we were up by 11 points with 8 minutes left, and we lost. So that's what I was thinking. I don't know. 17-6, we have to score a little more. We got to keep being aggressive and pedal to the metal, which we were. But I just thought an outstanding game. Looking at Derek Carr.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, listen, quarterbacks get a lot of glory, they get a lot of blame. Derek Carr was outstanding again. That's that word, fabulous, whatever. Derek Carr, 23 of 28. Everybody looks,
again, guys, like we talked about it when it happened, but when you look back at the boos and you look at all the controversy and the adversity that some of these players went through, all the players went through, and we talked about it when it happened. It felt like a moment where everything changed, and it felt like that this team could have quit. They're getting booed at home. The fans don't like them, right? They're hearing it loud and clear. They could have folded. They could have quit. They could have said, you know what? F these fans, F this city. I'm not doing it anymore. They could have shut down shop. But they didn't. They showed it in that Lions game. They did not have to come back. And we talked about it on this channel at length. That it showed something. And even in that loss, it showed what this team was made of. It showed the character of the team. And what have we seen since then? I think we've seen a totally different team. I think we've seen a totally different Derek Carr. I'm not saying like he's, John Elway all of a sudden, but he looks like he heard the boos. And he looks like he's ready. And he's taking on the challenge. And I'm not saying the boos did everything, but this does seem like a different team. Just belief-wise, just body language-wise, just how they're playing, everything. And we'll see how it all plays out. But that could have been a pivotal moment in the season and in this kind of story of these players.
When he didn't throw for 300 yards, so what? You have to look how efficient he is. His quarterback rating was 135, basically.
Yeah, he was
3
really
touchdowns,
good.
no
Very
pick,
efficient. Yeah.
and 23 of 28. And I'm telling you, if he truly could have been accurate, Steve, in this game, he might have been like 26 of 28. I think he was that much on fire, and he had 10 different receivers. You spread the wealth.
Right, that was an old throwback to those Drew Brees days.
That's it. Get everybody involved, like Alvin Kamara, 5 targets.
It took a little while for Kamara to get involved as much as I would have liked to see him involved. He kind of came on late, especially in the second half, but yeah, it was good to see Carr spread it around, getting the tight ends involved in the red zone, getting the receivers involved, getting Kamara involved. It was good. You don't have to have 350 yards passing when you have a game like Derek Carr had today. When it's that efficient, when you're that dialed in, everything else is much more important than accumulating yards. You don't have to have that. What was important was the 3 touchdowns. What was important was the no turnovers. What was important was managing the game, spreading it around, being careful with the football, no dumb plays. That was way more important than having 380 yards.
5 catches. You look at Juwan Johnson. If you get a couple of targets, how about you catch them? And he did. Juwan Johnson, his best game so far in a Saints uniform this season, like we were expecting, to build upon what he did last year. 2 targets, 2 catches. He had a long gain of 23 yards and a touchdown. You look, A.T. Perry, 2 targets, 2 catches, 17-yard average, which is outstanding. Rashid Shaheed, 4 targets, 3 catches. So we were spreading the ball around, like Jimmy Graham, 2 catches, 2 targets, 2 catches. So look, Keith Kirkwood coming out with a touchdown. That's how you keep defenses off balance, where it's not, I'm going to force feed this individual receiver. Now, some fantasy people might not like it.
Yeah, whatever. But this is pretty close to how you want to keep them off balance. You want to keep them off balance with getting everyone involved, being able to run, being able to pass, kind of keeping them at bay. And that's why it's so important personnel-wise, why it's so important for us to have Kamara on the field at the same time as Taysom, why it's important to have Kamara on the field at the same time as Jamal Williams. Like people always say, well, Jamal Williams is in to block. Okay, well, you can have him and Kamara on the field at the same time. There's not a rule against it. You can even have Kamara, Williams, and Taysom on the field at the same time. We always talk about you should be making decisions that the defense doesn't want you to do. You don't want to do things they want you to do. If it's 3rd and 6, they want you to have Alvin Kamara off the field. They want you to have Taysom off the field. They don't want you to have all of them. So you should be proactively making those decisions to make the defense uncomfortable. And we saw a lot of sets. Like they had an empty set. First time I've seen the formation. Empty back set. Kamara, Taysom out wide. First time I've seen that all year long. Good. Give them those looks. Give them looks with Jamal in the backfield and Kamara in the slot. Perfect. Let's see it. Have Taysom at quarterback, Jamal in the backfield, Kamara in the slot. That's what we should be doing. We shouldn't be feeding into what the defense wants us to do.
When you're spreading all around, but it's a headache for opposing defensive coordinator.
Yeah, exactly.
Whenever you're able to execute like that.
Yes.
But an outstanding, dominant win. The Giants have won 3 games in a row.
Yeah.
It's not like, the Giants are sorry. No, they were sorry about a month ago, but then they got a whole lot better with Tommy DeVito. And then I looked at, me and Mike Detillier was talking during the game. It was kind of like, how Cinderella, and all of a sudden...
the Giants are below average. But you know who else is below average? The Packers. And look what happened there. So just because a team is below average doesn't mean, who else is below average? The Buccaneers. The Falcons. Those teams are all below average. The Falcons just got rolled by the Panthers. And we got smoked by the Falcons. So just because a team is below average or whatever doesn't mean you have to discredit your win. We took a team that was coming in with a lot of momentum, and we embarrassed them. And that's what you're supposed to do. And now we got to take care of business against the Rams, the Buccaneers, and the Falcons. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know in the comments below what you thought. Great game, good performance. Feels good right now. Feels good to be a Saints fan. Go down in the comments below. I'll be down there replying to everyone. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.